to be honest, yes, there's a gay agenda. And our agenda is for people to understand that our sexuality is not minimizing. It is not something that should be used against us because it doesn't affect you in any way.
Right.
What's the name of this episode?
This is the gay agenda episode.
Alright guys, so our icebreaker today is going to be a game called Teach Me. So the question is, if we could come up with any queer subject to teach our students in school, what would it be and why?
I would teach about media, black gay media.
Okay.
I think that there's no representation on black gays that are in media.
Okay.
Me growing up, I didn't see anyone like me on TV, so I would teach them, you know, how to create different avenues for them.
It wasn't a thing until maybe like the late 90s that we actually started seeing people talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The only person that I saw, to be honest, was Carano on The Real World.
Oh, yeah.
On Philly. And I was like, okay, it's someone like I related to, so I was like, that's literally the only person. So.
I think for me, it would be LGBT activism. And it sounds really cliche, but a lot of people didn't realize that Bayard Rustin was a part of the March on Washington until like later on in life. And I didn't know that he was part of the March on Washington until later on in life. So I feel as though raising awareness of people within the community who made these big steps for us to be where we're at.
So for me, I think if I had to teach a class, or at least if I had to recommend there be a class for LGBTQ youth or those who are interested in LGBT history or subjects, I'd probably do like maybe a gay health class, like for gay people of color, because the statistics are so skewed when it comes to us and some of the different things that we are, prone to deal with in this lifestyle. So I would probably want them to know about it earlier, because I think even in high school when we take sex ed, I don't know if you guys had sex ed over here.
I've had it.
But we took it and it was so basic. It was literally, this is a vagina, this is a penis.
Right.
You're going through puberty, you're gonna be musty, you're gonna get taller, have a good time.
Right.
And I think that, kids now are so aware and they have so much access to information that we didn't have.
Exactly.
But that also means they have access to misinformation as well. And so I think if we did have an LGBTQ related like health class, specifically focusing on not just the scary stuff like the diseases or STIs and things like that, but also just about like helping your body and how to keep yourself clean and how to keep your mental health. The reason that we deal with so much of the homophobia and transphobia and mostly all types of phobias because of ignorance and a lack of education. So, if we give them the information and teach you this is something you have to be afraid of or that you have to hate it because you don't understand it, let's help you understand it so that when you get in this world and you mobilize, you realize that everybody's out here just trying to live their life.
Right.
And we all have a role to play, and I ain't got to stop and hate on you doing your thing, doing your thing, because we're aware of what they're going through and can empathize. All right, so now it's time for us to get into the meat and potatoes of our conversation.
Right.
This is the key. So there's been a lot of talk over the past few years, especially from the hoteps online, about the gay agenda, right? You hear all the time. Every time that somebody comes out, oh, that's the gay agenda. Every time there's a gay character added to a cartoon or a movie, it's the gay agenda. They're forcing this on us. What is the gay agenda?
I don't know.
What do you feel about it?
I don't know. I feel like is it sold at Barnes and Nobles? Because I see that everybody got a copy of it. I don't got a copy of it. Like,
And this is
so sorry. I did not mean for that alarm to go off.
now see that's
my alarm. That's the gay agenda.
'Cause I know what my agenda is.
Right.
Okay.
Everyone should have their own individual agenda. But I mean, it's a lot of people that have their own opinion about stuff. I don't know. I just focus on me and focus on my agenda.
I personally believe that there is a gay agenda.
Oh, really?
And I'm excited about it because, you know, when I hear the straight people talking about the gay agenda, I'm like, how do you know? You didn't come to the meeting.
Right.
So how do you know what the agenda is? You see something happening, you think it's part of the agenda. No. You just sit back and watch. The agenda is unfolding. But I think that it's really a collective movement between our community to seek representation, our fight for equality, and I think that anytime that you have a concerted effort by any group of people, that there does need to be some form of organization and an agenda. What is the objective? What is the goal? And just like when there was the civil rights movement, I'm pretty sure racist white people were like, oh, that's the black agenda. And meanwhile, black people were like, I don't know what you're talking about, a black agenda, I'm just black.
Right.
And I'm just here. But to be honest, yes, there's a gay agenda. And our agenda is for people to understand that our sexuality is not minimizing. It is not something that should be used against us because it doesn't affect you in any way.
Right.
The only thing that I think gay people really want are lesbians or trans, bisexual, non-binary people, intersex people. People just want to be recognized as human and to be left the hell alone. So in talking about this gay agenda, there's also a lot of talk about there being an effort on the part of mainstream media to push the feminization of black heterosexual men. I think one of the examples we can point to is when I think Cam Newton started becoming a fashion icon before his games, and he started switching up how he looked, and straight men started losing their mind, like, this nigga, I don't know, European cousin, like, what is he wearing? He wearing Lady Gaga stuff, and you know, like, what do y'all feel about that? Like, do you feel like that's a thing, or?
I don't know, because, you know, back in the day, because I'm a basketball player, Dennis Rodman did everything. Like, he dressed up in a wedding dress. He was going to drag shows. He was going to gay clubs. And when he did an interview on The Breakfast Club, he just said, I just felt comfortable in those spaces. I'm not gay, but I like being around that. You know, it's fun. People have fun. So I think it's always gone that way. I mean, Young Thug was in a dress. So it's just...
And the gag is, he wanna misgender Zaya on social media, but you're in a dress. And you were talking about gender wasn't a thing for you back in 2016. Make it make sense.
The feminization of black men, I think that most of that conversation ties into like white supremacy, and because that always gets tied into like the gay agenda, and how that's part of white supremacy is to feminize the black gay man, which is supposedly to wedge our families. I think there was like buck breaking was something that used to happen on the plantations, where the strongest man on the plantation, black man, would be taken into the center of the plantation, or whatever the common space is, and the master and or the deputies would literally sodomize him in front of the other slaves and their wives and children to kind of assert their authority. I think that what most of the people on the who believe that there's a gay agenda when it comes to the feminization of the black man, I feel like they think that we're publicly being buck broken when you watch TV and you see black straight men in, you know, designer couture, or when you have stories about black queer children who are aware and can identify, and they see it as an agenda, or you being inundated, the normalization of it. Usually they have some long theory about how white people created homosexuality, and it's supposed to be some formal way to minimize the black community. But I just feel like this whole narrative that most heterosexual black men use because they feel like their sexuality is threatened by there being so many gay, happy, successful black men being pushed to the front. I think that it just feels threatening. It's an ego thing. It has nothing to do with a gay agenda. or white supremacy is a real thing. I believe that. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. We're witnessing it
currently.
Yeah, because it requires a system to be put in place to oppress people. But when it comes to how other people identify or what they like sexually, I just feel that we have to get into the space where we stop trying to police each other. And I'm talking about us.
I think more stories need to come out though about a straight man and say his gay best friend. Like it's nothing out there that we can actually see, like on TV and stuff like that. It's always like gay. But it's stuff like that has to be, highlighted. So.
It has to be normalized.
Straight gay relationships.
So in New Jersey is implementing an LGBT history course. At what age do you feel as though they should be learning about that?
I think that if you're able to start teaching people about, how their state was purchased and agriculture and capitalism and, about the Puritans or all this other stuff, I think that you should probably be able to teach them about some of those people that were active in purchasing some of these states or, or running for office or working at the Treasury. Like they're openly LGBTQ people of interest, so that there are kids who may identify or who may be questioning their own gender identity or sexual identity can see themselves in that history.
If you look at history from, if you want to say kindergarten through 12th grade, it's usually focusing on the basics of U.S. history. We always talk about the Civil War. We always talk about Revolutionary War. I had learned about African American history very basic wise starting like first grade, but once I got to like 10th grade 11th grade, they had an African American studies course or Africana studies course that I took, and it blew my mind because there was so much more that I learned about being a person from the African diaspora.
I mean, the world's been here for a long time, so I'm sure there's only so much you can pack into a semester or a year to teach a kid. Personally, if I as a parent or even as an uncle, I can't imagine my second grade nephew coming home telling me about LGBTQ history, because I'm like, why are you even worried about the lesbian, bis, gays?
I mean, if you want your child to be a little bit more well versed on the world and what the current state of the world.
But why do I want my second grader well versed on the world? Because your world is in my house.
This is valid. I guess I'm thinking it from a little bit more older standpoint, from like 5th, 6th grade, especially because of the fact of puberty playing a role as well. And then you want to learn, and then on top of that, you explore more with your sexuality as you get older. So it's kind of like, okay, so I get that with second graders.
Right.
As you see with the current state of the world now, a lot of people are starting to bring their children to pride parades. A lot of people are starting to educate their children on different aspects of sexuality and gender.
Well, all children are different. And I think that also the separation between gender identity versus sexuality, because trans is a gender identity, right? Being intersex is a gender identity. Being non-binary is a gender identity. And I think there's so much history there that you could teach, that kids could appreciate, so that when they do interact or see certain things on television, they recognize it. Oh yeah, because these are real people. It's not just entertainment. This was part of our culture and how it shapes the world, so they can respect it. Doesn't mean I think that most parents, especially the straight ones, they're so afraid that if their kids know that there are so many options of what you can grow into be, because that's part of the things that they can't control.
Right.
I think it scares them a little bit for their kids to be aware of it. It's like, okay, well, if I've been raising my son all this time and now he sees, this little boy who's decided today that he wants to be a girl and he wants to wear dresses and heels and he wants to wear wigs and like that, my son may decide, hey, well, I want to do that too, arbitrarily, not without there being any real conscious thought or effort. And I think most parents that I've been seeing complain, they believe that now it's becoming like a trend. Like they really think that being gay is like, it's just treated like, oh, y'all here just sucking dick because it's fun. Like, you know what I mean? Well, I mean, it is fun. But I'm a virgin, so I don't know. I'm just saying, I've heard that it's fun. Right? I think that, you know, the gender part, I think that if we were focusing on gender identities as it relates to impact on our culture, then I think, you know, 4th grade would be good. 4th, 5th grade would be fine.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be the sweet spot.
When it comes to sexuality, though, when you start getting into like bisexuality and lesbianism and stuff like that, I think that's where we can start talking about maybe having sexuality courses. About, you know, the different labels that come with it.
No, I feel like, and that's where I feel like kind of public school kind of drops the ball a little bit, because they just generalize sexuality as binary. They never really talk about sexuality in its different forms, and it was kind of disappointing. And I looking back at it, and I'm just like, I get it, like y'all not as well versed on it, I guess, but at the same time, y'all did a disservice to a lot of students, because it was like there was quite a few students who were a part of the community who not only felt like they couldn't come out because of how the school did everything, but they didn't know where to go or who to talk to when it came to certain things like that.
I think that if we were to include the diverse sexualities in the conversation around that time, I think it would probably eliminate a lot of the bullying too, because it's
That's
like
true.
everyone gets a chance to be represented. You get to learn about everything,
and that's where I was coming
you get
from.
to pick and to pick and choose, you know, what your route is going to be going forward. And our children deserve a chance to be seen, and I think that is what the message should be. But it's going to be a sight to see when that does happen. So, all right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us for an amazing conversation about the gay agenda. Thank you so much for our special guest, John. Can you let the people know where they can find you?
Yep, you can follow me on Instagram. My personal Instagram is IamJTruth, and my podcast Instagram, _podcast, and that's my podcast, bag standing for Black and Gay.
Awesome. Dope.
Pretty much. We're going to follow you everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can also follow us and join the conversation by liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Twitter @QueeredM, and you can follow us on Instagram @QueeredMillennial. Well, that's all the time we have for today, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Bye.